in the Badlands of Montana. And so Chris has got his bike, but where's your bike?
My bike was hired in Spokane, Washington.
And that was the children's section your bike came
It
from?
felt like the children's section.
I'm Matt Cooper, and this is Bite Sides. G'day, and welcome to another edition of the Ausfine Bite Sides podcast. Pretty exciting to have another great guest with us today. He's a superstar of the Ausfine world. We'll get to him shortly. But the background to having our guest with us today is he's in country for a short amount of time. He actually is the VP of Sales of Ausfine USA. Now, Ausfine USA is our newest addition to the expanding fold of the Ausfine world, headquartered in Denver. Started about 6 months ago. Officially, we launched Ausfine USA. It's super exciting for us. It is our baby. It is on the back of some fantastic relationships that we've had in the US for a long, long time. And it has presented through those relationships some wonderful opportunities to expand our business within the borders of the US market. The US being 15 times bigger than the Australian market is certainly attractive to us on both our dairy and meat sides of our business. It has turned out to be an incredibly interesting time to launch Ausfine USA with the election of one Mr. D. Trump, and he's certainly throwing the world into disarray in our international trade world anyway. At the current time, it seems like every time you wake up, the world has changed dramatically in one way or the other. Which leads us into the insights, or getting the insights of the fellow who is heading up our Ausfine USA team over there. His name is Tom Wigan. His title right now is VP of Sales, Ausfine USA. But before we get to the discussing the US business, we'll hear a little bit about Tommy's backstory and how he came to be at Ausfine. So, Mr. Tom Wigan, welcome to Ausfine Bite Sides podcast.
Thanks, Matt. It's it's a pleasure to be included on the podcast. Obviously, had a very good listen to Chris's take on the backstory of Ausfine, and some really sort of great takeaways from the journey. And it's absolute pleasure to be here, and it's nice to be able to be included in this podcast for my obviously in Australia for the last couple of weeks. And as you mentioned, there's been a fair bit go down since I've come
Yes, indeed, Tom.
come back from the US. And I just a bit about my backstory. I'm 31 years old. I grew up in a small town in Tasmania, Launceston. Tassie boy.
Yeah.
I spent majority of my teen years in high school at Scott Joburn down in Launceston. Made the big move across the ditch to Melbourne to further study. I studied just at Hawthorn at the Swinburne University, where I did. Initially, I actually wanted to go into more management / an entrepreneurial sort of degree, but I studied a course on cross-cultural business relationships and also on international trade, particularly on Incoterms, and it brought a fair bit of curiosity. Incoterms.
Didn't actually know that about you, Tommy. So I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to learn about you today that I didn't know. So I didn't know we had a resident Incoterms expert in our midst.
So it was. I think from that first year where I studied a couple of international business units, I gained this great sort of curiosity, particularly around Asian business trade and Australia's connection to some of our big partners like Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and from there, it kind of I finished my degree at the end of 2016.
Yep.
I ended up getting a graduate role at Marubeni Itochu, which are sort of very famous Japanese trading companies, working on the steel steel desk.
Yes. So your history is not necessarily in meat or dairy world. You're a steel guy.
I'm a steel guy.
You're a steel guy.
Yeah,
And
blue steel.
blue steel, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're Incoterms and blue steel. I love it.
Yeah.
I guess just a really quick side note on that, and you mentioned the Japanese trading house.
Yep.
I think for people who are listening, it's interesting just the role that the Japanese trading houses play in the Japanese economy and how dominant they are. Do you want to just give like a 30-second insight into that?
Yeah. So essentially there's 3 or 4 major Japanese trading houses, and most of these companies, they focus on diversification. So they're not just trading steel products, for instance. They're in agriculture.
Oh, they're in everything, aren't they?
Yeah, textiles. They're covering most commodities across the world, and they play a fundamental role in the culture, especially the business culture in Japan, where a lot of the junior people that come through university, they want to work for these top tier Japanese trading companies. And I think through my experience, I was lucky to be involved in that sort of world, even though I wasn't obviously not Japanese. I got to travel to Japan at the age of 22, negotiating contracts with a Japanese steel supplier and an Australian customer. So I really got that exposure from a young age, and I think that that's sort of been key in my growth, and I'm very grateful for that experience. That I was able to travel overseas and experience an Asian culture, and the Japanese way is very different from Taiwanese or the Chinese. It's very, very structured. It's almost like gentlemen, sitting across the table. Your suppliers sit on one side, customer on the other. It's very structured. You've got your presentations, the bowing,
even
all those
the way you hand over a business card is very structured and formulaic. You must hand it over this way with a bow and 2 hands. Show your due respect.
So that, I think, it was really interesting.
It's sorry to interrupt, but it is just even that to have that experience of negotiating steel contracts at the age of 22 for some serious money.
Yeah,
that's an amazing. It is an amazing level of trust and experience that these trading houses place in their young people, and also testament to the graduate programs that they have. And so many I know from our world in dairy. So many of the people we come across have their history and where they've come from is through the Japanese trading houses.
So that was a really great experience. So I spent best part of 8 months going through a junior trader role, where I learned about logistics, operation, currency, understanding how to do a set of documents and on both import and export. So it sort of gave me those really good fundamentals at a young age, and I had some really strong mentors at the steel company too. Yeah. There's a guy, Tim Nesbitt, that I'm still in touch with today, who helped sort of guide me through that, all those different cultures and the markets as well, particularly around steel. Steel at that time, it was highly protectionist in Australia, so there was some pretty big tariffs that we were imposing on Asian countries, and that was to protect the local producers, BlueScope and One Steel at the time, which is now Liberty. So it was interesting to see the import side of the business, which is obviously, it's vastly different to my role now, where I was, moved into more of an export role. So it was,
It's interesting you brought up tariff and protectionism so early in the conversation, and no doubt we'll get to it at some point with everything going on with President Trump. But It's probably just a really good insight that once you peel back the world of international trade, you quickly realize that there is a rabbit warren of tariffs and protectionist measures that go on in every economy and every country around the world. It's not just exclusive to recent events and to the US. It's prevalent everywhere, always has been. And part of our job quite often is navigating those barriers, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge. But I think the great thing I've listened to Chris on the podcast as well is where our ability to remain nimble.
Sure.
We're not sort of tied into manufacturing specifically itself. That's sort of channelized through one export market. We've got that ability to sort of have that flex and pick the opportunities we want to do, as opposed to being tied to a singular opportunity. So
absolutely. So back to you, the story of T Wigan. You're in steel world, and how did you find yourself to be at Ausfine?
Yeah, so in the Japanese structure, it's obviously quite hierarchical. So the strategy from the Japanese side was to hire sort of the general managers to come out from Japan on secondment sort of missions for 2 to 3 years to learn about a new market and build that experience. So I guess I sort of saw from quite early on that it probably wasn't going to be my long-term role. I was grateful for the experience, but I saw the job pop up with Ausfine Foods, and it generally made me curious. I don't have farming properties myself in Tasmania, but I had a lot of friends that were in agriculture and farming, particularly on the sort of lamb and mutton side. So I always generally had a pretty strong interest in agriculture, and I guess through my trading experience, I was intrigued by the Ausfine story, and also working for an Australian company that was a bit more sort of dynamic and gave me the ability to sort of expand my skill set and really thrive. So I ended up starting with Steve Helliger, our head of the meat division and our leader on the meat side of the business. Obviously, I had no experience.
Yes, so you've come in
little to no experience.
Come in with pretty much zero experience in meat world, and you got to no doubt you got chucked in the deep end. Although with the support of Mr. Helliger, who's a wonderful mentor and support, particularly for people who are new to the industry.
Yeah,
I experienced that myself back in the day. When we were still deciding whether I was going to go down the meat route or the dairy. Steve was fantastic at supporting a young person coming in and learning the ropes. But even with that support, still thrown into the deep end. And I'd say my experience is on dairy, but again, with a little exposure to the meat world that I've had, it's a different culture than what is true in dairy, and I would imagine in steel. What was your initial take from meat world?
Yeah, no, it's the steel world was actually not too dissimilar to the dairy side of the business, where you've got all your fixed raw material costs from a plant level is known for these companies from 6 to 12 months in advance, and it was a very sort of structured deals that you could do for 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
Because all those costs were known and they could hedge it, and they've got all the background work to allow them to do that on the coke and coal, on all the feed materials. Not too dissimilar in dairy with milk.
Yeah, to a degree.
As well, to a degrray.
Yeah, to a degree, but yeah.
But it's on the meat side, Steve, I was straight into it. There's spot opportunities popping up all the time. It was just this wave of energy that I hadn't experienced through my steel trading time. I really loved it. It was I think it was day 3, I got my first deal across the line, and I think
day 3 is pretty good.
So I was pretty
happy
with
high
that.
energy. It's quick. You need answers quickly.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas dairy's a little more sedate. You can kind of work on a deal for a couple of days, if not a couple of weeks, to be honest. And but meat, that's forever in meat world.
Yeah. It's sort of, if you're not getting more than 24-hour validity. On your offers, and you're lucky to get that.
And what about some of the responses from some of the meat processors and their communication style? How would you rate that?
Oh yeah, I mean it was definitely a wake up call. I think
no arms around the shoulders and welcome to the industry.
No. That was it certainly wasn't that. It was, I think, working in an abattoir. It's quite a unique business.
It's a hard job.
It's it's one of the only industries probably where you could make money for 6 months of the year and not make money for 6 months of the year, but you've got to keep processing to keep the plant operational from a cost perspective. So it's that side of it. I understood a lot of these businesses were small to medium companies. They're getting thrown a lot of different roles. They could be trying to sell a load of boneless lamb legs, but then they're getting thrown into the slaughter floor to fix a production issue. So it's a very unique type of individual to take on that role. And a lot of these companies were their family-owned businesses, second, third generation abattoir owners. So they're busy guys. So you got to capture their attention, and that's sort of that fast-paced nature of it. But I really did love it and the activity, and I've been very fortunate to build some strong relationships on the customer side as well, which I'm really proud of.
Yep, you've done a fantastic job, and I would say with your style, it's very much based around the deep relationship and getting to that next level of understanding for both suppliers and customers. So it's a credit to you. That brings you, so from the time you walked through the door at Ausfine to the time we started talking about a potential move to the US, how long was that?
So I started in November 2020, and the first sort of conversation with the big fella, with Christoph, was October 2023. So roughly 3 years. So
3 years, you've gone from knowing very little about meat specifically, although some good experience in trading in general. So in 3 years, you've gone from that to being one of our superstars in our trading team, to warrant such an opportunity to actually move and head up our expansion into the US is a testament to you. So how did you feel about that first conversation, and what was your kind of emotional response to that?
Obviously the idea of moving to another country and taking on this exciting new opportunity, it was a little bit daunting to start with, but honestly I was really excited to be able to expand the sort of Ausfine story, and I think more just being an extension of, we've got 16, 17 year relationships there, or even longer in the US itself. So knowing that we've got those dairy relationships particularly already established gave me a lot of sort of it gave me that energy to know that we've got that structure and that I can go over there and really build something special. As you mentioned, the US market is 15 times larger than the Australian market from an agricultural and consumption perspective. So it was a very exciting opportunity, and I was grateful, and I felt it felt really nice to have that from the top of the business, that they trusting me to drive the business forward in the States.
So we fast forward from October 2023, relatively quickly we entered 2024, and you start spending a lot more time in the US scoping out potential locations for for where we're going to set up shop, etc. Do you want to just walk us through a bit of that time?
Yeah, so I headed over there on my Esther. So that was, I think it was 80 days in total. So it was, sort of mid-April. We actually were on the first flight over there. We did a bit of a Indonesian trip, and then the start of the trip was the ADPI Dairy Conference in Chicago. So that's almost 12 months ago now. So that time's absolutely flowing. But I spent 80 days over there, and a big chunk of that was with Chris, just really understanding where we wanted to set up and establish the office. We kind of had three main states, which was California, Colorado, and Texas. So really sort of dialing in on one, sort of 5 points where we wanted to tick off in terms of location, taxes, livability, and a couple of other factors where we wanted to really dial in, and Denver seemed to be the best fit based off that sort of 80 days. But we traveled to 11 different states across the US. We really wore out the shoe leather. We spent a little bit of time down in Mexico, which was amazing. I was really grateful to travel with Chris. He's someone that a mentor, but he's someone that I really admire. His entrepreneurial spirit and his ability to sort of find the opportunity and help us grow and scale. And I think to have that time with him was really special, and it's something I'll remember.
Just sorry for me interrupting, but included a bike ride. Is that right? And you're actually describing to me earlier about the bike that you had to ride. Do you want to just update on that one as well?
So we we rode about 100 kilometers a day, but so Chris actually, he freighted over his bike from Australia, which I think that had a few teething issues in itself. We won't unpack that. But.
So for the background, this was a ride by Rowan, who was raising money for cystic fibrosis, riding from one coast of America to the other, from west to east, which is an amazing undertaking for that guy. And you and Chris decided to join him, I think, Montana. Is that right?
Yeah.
In the Badlands of Montana. And so Chris has got his bike, but where's your bike?
My bike was hired in Spokane, Washington.
And that was the children's section, your bike came
It
from?
felt like the children's section. It was...
and you're a big man. For those not able to see Tommy's height, he's a big man. He's 6'6". He's a big fella, so he needs a big bike. But alas, big bike was not delivered.
No, that was not a big bike. And that 100 Ks really took it out of me. Well, I was saying earlier that I said to Chris and Rowan, you guys go ahead. I don't want to embarrass you guys anymore. Just let me go as slow as possible, and I'll get through this 100 Ks. But no, it was an incredible experience. Like, honestly, hearing Rowan's story, around cystic fibrosis, and the reason why he's doing it, and the support from the company to pursue that type of ride. It was it was a really cool week. But I certainly wasn't walking too well after that.
No, but also I guess feeding back into your previous comments around being able to spend some time with Rowan, but also with Chris. And he's an enthusiastic man, and just he exudes energy and a can-do entrepreneurial spirit, which I've noticed with you. You really enjoy and get a lot of energy from it yourself.
No, for sure. And I think for me, I've always sort of had that trading lens on, so it was nice to be able to sort of step back and have that overarching look at the business, and have a look at those longer term strategic opportunities that we can capture, and what's it look like not just in 12 months, but what does Ausfine Foods USA look like in 5 to 10 to 15 years. And that's something Chris is really, really strong in.
Yeah, fantastic. So luckily we also we're able to attract a couple of great people to date. We'll no doubt expand that pretty dramatically in the coming months and years. But very lucky to secure Jackie Cook as part of our team, and really focused in on the dairy side of the business. How have you gone so far working with Jack?
Yeah, no, Jackie's a really, really great person, a great advocate for Ausfine Foods. She brings some extensive knowledge, particularly around the dairy trade side of the business, and for me, and selling product out of the US too. So, she came along with some really strong export opportunities, as well as North American opportunities too, which I think Chris mentioned. We've always sort of had that strong export book of selling US cheese and proteins out of country, and we really wanted that complement to have some North American sell side liquidity, which Jackie's helped us to solidify some of those relationships, which is really, really good.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And obviously we've got Cody on board now as well, smashing out of the park and helping us on logistics. He's doing a fantastic job as well. But getting back to Jack, I think where she's really helping as well is just the cultural differences, which is interesting. You don't think there's too many cultural differences between Australia and the US. Speaking the same language, similar kind of agricultural pioneering background, I guess, but we are quite culturally different. So it's been great to have Jackie on board and helping us navigate our way through all things US, particularly Midwest USA. Sometimes I think we're a bit lost in translation, the way we speak and the way that we approach business over there compared to the way that they do. But it kind of leads into my next question with you. How have you gone? Fast forward to now, you've actually over there permanently now. You moved over there permanently in January. And you're now embedding yourself in the US culture and US business culture in particular. How have you found it? And are you finding yourself adapting to it? Are you finding yourself enmeshing yourself within the US, or you're pining for home? How are you going?
Look, I think the US and Australia has some great alignment from a business perspective. I think they're quite sort of entrepreneurial in the way they think, and I think for us as a trading company, they lean a lot on the broker relationships more than probably what we do here in Australia. I think just the vastness of that country, where you've got so many different states, so many different tax considerations, and if you're moving product from Texas to California, what are the taxes and that type of thing. And I think I feel like I've been really embraced by that culture, and I think that they really like what we're doing and the model that Ausfine brings to the market in terms of the customer service, really strong supply relationships, and also just doing the right thing and being good people. I think that's really helped. But I love my golf. So golf is a big thing in the US, particularly in the corporate world. I haven't been able to play too many rounds, but that's something too I've been enjoying as a little side piece, is going to have a round of golf every so often, and it's embedded in the corporate culture too. Fantastic. Yeah.
And your personal goals for the next, say, 1 to 5 years, what's your focus, and what do you want to achieve over the next period of time?
I think for me, it's moving over there in sort of my early 30s. It's given me that ability to really grow, I guess, one my wealth, two, establish hopefully some really good relationships in the US, and hopefully build something that's really special and sustainable for the next sort of 5 to 10 years. And that's not just from a business perspective, but from hopefully have a family one day over there, and really embed myself there, and one day obviously want to move back to Australia. But the exciting opportunity for me is the US. Despite all the noise I think that's going on, I think this is probably just a little disruption with Mr. Donald Trump. So I think it's for me, I just want to lean into it and really see what direction it takes me.
Fantastic. Well, that kind of leads us into the next segment on the Bite Sides podcast, where we the first part is spent getting to know the guest, and segment 2 is we talk about what's happening in the world. So it's a beautiful transition that you dipped your toe into that conversation piece. So obviously right now we're on a daily watch of what's happening on the trade wars and tariff impositions that's going on, etc. So it's very, very volatile, it's fair to say, and very much directly impactful on the Australian meat industry. Mm-hmm. So the beef to the US side of the business, but obviously well beyond that once you go through your lens of being in the US and there are other export markets and the impact of what's happening out there right now. So super interested. It's very, very topical. Very interested on what your take is on it, how it's being discussed and absorbed in the US as well. I mean, you're in a wonderful position of being able to speak to the Australian side of the industry as well as having feet well and truly enmeshed in the US side as well. So what's your take and what are you hearing?
I think obviously when you have these major disruptions, you see displacement of product. Yes, there's been a sort of blanketed 10% tariff put on Australian produce or across all commodities, but my take on it is particularly on the meat side of the business. The US is going through a livestock shortage not seen since the 1950s.
Yeah, that is incredible stat.
Yeah.
So is that 100% true?
I run with it, but it's been it's been discussed for probably the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, amazing.
This re-herd
just to reiterate, the beef herd in the US is at its lowest point since 1955 or 56.
Yeah. So if you look at the trade disruptions taken away fully, if you look at the fundamentals on people need to eat, and beef being a $40 billion retail value product in the US, that's not taking into consideration all the hamburgers and the fast food consumption.
Sure.
They need the product. The 10%, yes, it's going to have a major impact on supply. Maybe there'll be some shift into other countries, but I think the fundamentals say that they need the product. The currency is very favourable for Australian companies to export. And just to put it into context, the US is taking about 42,000 tonne of beef from this country every month. The next leading market is Japan at 21,000. So it's almost double the number 2 country on Australian beef. So I think, yes, the 10% is going to hurt, but I think the market will be able to absorb that amount. And I think a big watch out will be obviously the displacement of US beef, particularly with what's going on with China. Mm-hmm. The 2 major markets for US beef is China, Mexico, and then you've got Japan and Korea as well. So I think I've already seen a few opportunities present from US producers that they're wanting me to shift product from that was going to China into other markets. So I think that's like moving of the deck chairs. I think we've mentioned that a few times recently, that this product, that the product has to get sold somewhere. It has to get consumed in a certain market. It's just one what the price will be, and 2 who's going to take it. So I think it's going to be a very interesting 12 to 18 months to see how this all plays out.
It is, and you make a really great point, and we talk about it internally a lot whenever there is a trade disruption, that the product will find its home somewhere else, which will then displace product from that secondary market. So that will then find probably a home in the original intended market. So It is very much deck chairs being moved around on a boat. Really, they're
Yeah.
yes, they're in different positions, but the net result is largely the same. Although there'll be some heartache along the way and some pricing differentials as we find the new normal around trade lanes.
Yeah.
And I guess you've been over here for the last couple of weeks, so it's kind of really kicked off over the last couple of weeks. So you're probably not hearing too much of the US reaction, but have you heard any kind of feedback from your US contacts?
I think a lot there is from the agricultural side of the business. I think the farmers are feeling the pinch, particularly. You take away, although the US is such a massive net consumer within its own country on volume, particularly for meat, you take away 5%, 6% of your market in China. That's still a substantial amount of product that you have to move. So I think the farmers are quite upset with these protectionist moves, because it's essentially cutting off a lot of other export markets that may put on reciprocal tariffs like China has done, or other countries. So, but from a consumer in the US, from retail costs will go up. I suggest, finance might be a bit more expensive. So it's having a direct impact on people, the consumers in the US. I think that is probably there to stay until this disruption kind of eases.
Yeah, great insight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tommy. And that is pretty much it. It's been great to be able to get a hold of you while you are still here in Australia. When are you back to the States?
Heading back on Sunday.
Sunday, so today's Thursday. So 2 or 3 more days to go before you head back. So it's been great having you here. And from my point of view, as being CEO of Ausfine, really excited and happy that you are steering the ship over there. You've been a fantastic asset to the company from the time you walked through the door, and continue to this day. So it's very much appreciated, and gives me a great level of comfort to know that you're there on the heading up the show over there. So thank you. It's been great to have this chat. And we'll see you very, very soon. Either I'm over there or you're back over here in Australia.
Thank you, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure.